Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to today's show. Today we're talking all about when less is more in your training. Do you feel like you're trying to squeeze more and more into your training but still not getting the results that you want? Do you feel like you're pouring out a lot of time, energy, and effort into your training, but you're still feeling burnt out, worn down, and maybe just not where you want to be? It might be time to implement the less is more approach to your training. And when implemented strategically, this approach can provide the boost your body needs to reach new levels of health and fitness. And whether you're looking to break through current plateaus or you're just too busy to commit hours and hours a week at a gym, then listen up to today's show because we're going to be talking all about the less is more approach and when that is a good fit for you and your training. A lot of men out there think that more is better when it comes to their training and their health. And I see this all the time. People come in, and if one workout is good, then two must be better. If one protein shake is good, then I need two. If one coffee boosts my productivity, I'll drink four. And there's all these things that we layer one good thing, and we think that more of it is better. And the same thing's true with working out. And I know how hard it is to avoid falling into that more is better trap, because it seems intuitive. If one thing is good, then layering more and more good things on top of it must be even better. But that's just not the case, especially when it comes to your training. And I see this all the time with the CrossFitters I work with. CrossFitters and runners seem to be the two populations that fall into this so commonly. Runners, it starts by maybe you hit that sweet spot in mileage, but then there's this itch, this urge to continue to push for more and more to try and get that next level of either performance or weight loss, strength gains. And these things can happen in these active populations. But when people come in to work with us, whether they're looking to even further break through those plateaus, improve their performance, or they're dealing with some overuse injuries, some aches, some pains, a lot of times this is due to too much training volume and taking that more is better approach. I see a lot of CrossFitters that, especially as they're training for performance, they might be working out 1 to 2 times a day, 6 to 7 days a week. And that's a lot if you're not recovering well, if you're not managing nutrition and stress and sleep and some of those other things we've talked about in past shows. But thinking that those extra sessions are beneficial, or, hey, I have to get this edge by adding in this extra session, doing this extra mobility work, going in, and I did a conditioning workout earlier, but I'm trying to go do some squat work later. Those things seem like they're beneficial, but those things can actually set you back, not just from an injury standpoint, like we commonly see a lot, but even from a performance standpoint. You're not allowing your body to recover and actually build the way that it might be designed to. And this creates all sorts of problems. People sometimes see it as performance edge. They get burnt out. They feel worn down. They feel mentally not invested in their training. Could even be in the form of weight gain, fat gain. Those things if we're training too much and we're overtraining, I talked about this in a previous show. If you're overtraining, you can actually hold on to weight and hold on to fat, and it can create problems as well. So it's not just a performance side and a burnout side, but it's also an injury side, a potential weight gain side. There's other negative side effects that can come along with that. So let's talk about today. I want to talk about how to apply the less but better approach to your training. And I say less but better because a lot of times we hear the term less is more, and I do think that is the case at times. But I like less but better over less is more, because less is more can create complacency or can be seen maybe as laziness, but you're not doing less for the sake of doing less. You're doing less because it's a better option for you in your specific situation. And this doesn't apply to everyone. If you're having a hard time getting one training session in a week, then the less but better approach might not be the option. It might be a matter of taking out the mindset around that, of switching from, okay, I'm only getting one training session in a week, to how do I add up some very small wins throughout the week that might not even look like a training session to you. So that's something to keep in mind. It's because we're always chasing better. We're not chasing less for the sake of less. We're chasing better for the sake of long-term improvements, sustainable improvements over time. And if you're in that overtraining category, that more is better category, then these things are definitely applicable. But either way, whether you're busy and looking to just find time to work out at all, or if you're on the other end of the spectrum of you're working out 6-7+ times a week, then here's some strategies that I would recommend for how to approach your training with this less but better approach. So first thing is to pick one goal for the training session. So sometimes I see people getting caught up in, well, I only have time for this 1 or 2 sessions this week. So I need to fit in my cardio, my strength training, my accessory work. I need to do my mobility work all in one session. And I think that's the wrong approach for a couple of reasons, because one, you could be doing conflicting stuff within a single session. If you're pushing cardio and then trying to max out the same day, you're probably better off separating some of those things when able. But also the other side of that is that it creates scattered focus. It creates a false sense of urgency and lacking seeing the big picture or the long term. So by picking one goal, it forces you to prioritize what's really important for that training session. It helps to keep you mentally and physically focused, and you know what you're doing going into it. Now, when I say training session as well, especially when we're talking the less but better approach, training session might be, I have time for 50 air squats and 50 push-ups in the morning, and that might take you only a handful of minutes, but that can be considered your training session. But still, that one goal would be, I'm going to knock out this many push-ups, this many squats, maybe this many sit-ups, and then be done. Or it might be your goal is, hey, I'm feeling beat up, so today's goal for this training session is to recover, do some mobility work, and make that the focus. So that one focus will help you from overcommitting within a single training session, because what happens in a single training session adds up over the course of weeks and months, and you want to make sure that you're managing that over the long term. Second piece, think quality over quantity. This is a big one. People think that I'm gonna go completely against my last point of sometimes the goal is a number of sets and reps. So I'm doing this many push-ups, this many sit-ups, this many squats. That can be whether it's with weights, whether it's body weight. But sometimes the choice is choosing quality over quantity. So worrying less about number of reps and more about, okay, how well am I moving? Do I have good form? Am I actually working the right muscles that should be worked? Sometimes we focus so much on quantity that we lose the quality of the movement. Our form suffers. You're better off doing fewer reps at a really high quality is going to treat you better for the long term versus trying to just crank out reps for the sake of cranking out reps. And you'll hear me mention long term a lot, because that ties into our next point of think about reframe your thinking a bit on how you can approach your training. Think about how much you can accomplish over a year instead of thinking about how much you accomplish maybe this week or even this month. We can take running as an easy example. Instead of focusing on running 20 miles this week, what if you thought about how much you can accomplish over the next month and the next year, the next decade, if you want to take it further? Because that's the kind of sustainability that's going to add up over time, where people try and push their body might not be ready for it. They're saying, okay, I'm doing 20 miles. I want to push to 25 miles this week. And if they make too big of a jump in the short term, then a lot of times we see setback, either from injury, from feeling burned out, and then maybe you did a few more miles 4 weeks in a row, 12 weeks in a row even, but then you had to take 4 weeks off because you were either exhausted, burned out, you suffered some kind of overuse injury. So try and shift to a new approach of thinking long-term of how can I approach this over the next year. Another point here with how to apply the less but better approach would be to only train for as long as you can stay mentally invested in your training. And this is a big one because a lot of people stretch their workouts too long. They go to the gym and maybe they're there for an hour and a half, and there's probably only a small percentage of that that's actually really focused, prioritized work. When we see people there for longer and longer when their training sessions are stretching out. Same thing if you think running, if you're pushing mileage and you're just kind of going through the motions, or even even if you're jumping on a cardio machine and you're just doing it kind of to check the box, that's not the best approach uh, to long-term results. And whatever your goals are, being more present in your training, being able to stay mentally invested, if that is short and sweet, then keep it short and sweet. If you can maintain it for an hour and that's something that you're excited about and you like lifting weights or you like enjoy running, and it's a time where you feel really empowered and connected, then absolutely do that. But if you're just going through the motions, I'd rather see people take that less but better approach. Cut the time down, make it a very intense quality session, but only train for as long as you can stay mentally invested. When I say mentally invested, I pretty much mean that you're not just waiting for the workout to be done. You're excited, you're in it, you're moving the weights, you're running, you're focused on what you're doing. You're not just thinking about, okay, what do I have to do next? Okay, I probably only have 20 minutes and then I got to go think about what I'm going to eat and this and that. So make sure that you're not thinking about the next thing and that you're fully present in what you're doing there. For if you are, whether you're forced to fall into a less but better approach to training, or if it's something that you're looking to do because you feel on the overtrained side of things, focus on let's say the bang for your buck type of movements. And this would be your compound movements, your things like squats, deadlifts, pushing and pulling. So benching, pull-ups, rowing, pressing, and then things like carries, some full body core work, some full body conditioning work are some good bang for your buck movements to focus on. Those things are going to carry you a long way. And those things are going to make the less but better approach effective. Where when you're focusing on those things, this would be the difference between less is more and less but better. A less is more approach would be, okay, I only have 10 minutes to work out, so I'm going to jump on the stationary bike for 5 minutes, and then I'll do some bodyweight squats and a couple push-ups, versus you have 10 minutes of time. Maybe you're doing every minute on the minute, you're doing a squat routine or a certain amount of squat reps, push-ups the next one, you're carrying a heavy weight, you're doing some lunges the next minute, you're doing pull-ups the following minute. And there's ways to structure this that is far more effective in the same amount of 10-minute time that you might have for that day, where you can get a lot more out of it when you focus on those bang for your buck movements. Last thing that want to wrap up the approach for this would be just decide if you want to apply the less is more principle daily, weekly, or monthly. And it could even be quarterly for people depending on training goals, but pick a way that this fits into your training and see how you can use one of these strategies and implement them more often. If you find yourself not being mentally invested and focused, then maybe it might be daily. You have to shorten up your workout a bit, cut the time in half and see if you can get the same amount of work done. If you can do the same amount of work in half the time, that's a big win. For some people that are training heavy in CrossFit or lifting or running, maybe once a month or once a quarter, you have to take a couple days completely off of your running or weight training and focus more on mobility work and walking and recovery. So find where this fits in your life. And I do believe that it fits somewhere for everyone, depending on if you're on either end of the spectrum of so busy that you can't find time to work out, or so overtrained that your body just needs some rest. I 100% think there's a place for less is more in your training, and it's got to be used strategically, and you have to go in with a plan for that. So keep that in mind and apply what works for you. But I think doing this will actually allow you to boost your performance, feel better about it, get more excited about your training. And those things are all good things that we want to focus on. Because if you do continue to push for the way of thinking that says more is always better, you might be setting yourself up for things like burnout, like injury, or poor results and performance in your training. So instead, consider implementing this less but better mindset to certain areas of your training to see even more results and especially sustainability in your training. You want to be able to continue to improve your health and fitness for not just weeks to come, but for years to come. And if you're looking for more specific guidance as it relates to your training, join other men getting their physical and mental edge back to reach high levels of performance inside and outside the gym. And that's why I created the Men Made for More coaching program. And make sure to check it out and set up a free strategy session by heading to the link in the show notes for any more information and to help get that set up. Thanks for listening today, guys. And I will talk to you tomorrow.